And we are live. Welcome to episode 35 of To the Unknown Pod, a sub podcast of the Thank God for Bitcoin podcast. My name is Jordan Bush. I'm the executive director of TGFB Media, which exists to help Christians understand and use Bitcoin for the glory of God and the good of people everywhere. Today we are joined by the Island Boys. It's been a long time. We are back. We are took a little break for a bunch of reasons, some that we'll talk about later. And we are excited to be back. So at least speaking for myself, I am excited to be back. So guys, introduce yourselves, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, Joshua Hawthorne. I live in the great state of Oregon, but used to be an island boy on the Big Island. And I lead a ministry called Brilliance Labs. We're an incubator for global kingdom projects. And we try to make a difference in our little neck of the woods. And I like meeting with my friends and talking about Bitcoin and dad stuff because I'm a dad of 8, and that's loads of fun.
I'm Ryan Finley, also from Oregon, also a former Hawaii resident. Father of 6, and I'm still doing a lot of projects with my boys, including my youngest son. And we have jumped back into the appliance trade, so we're fixing appliances. So that's been a fun venture over this past few months.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Matt Purvis, longtime pastor and business owner, entrepreneur, always taking on too many projects. Here, still on the Big Island, and beneath where I sit is like 3 lifetimes worth of appliance repair stuff that Ryan left here. So if you need it, Ryan,
come and get it.
I'll reach out for parts. I actually left them so that you could fix your washer and dryer till the end of time. There is enough parts there.
Let's go.
I just fixed my dryer. Not to take it off topic, I fixed the dryer at the bakery, and I noticed a little sticky note on it dated 2017. You know, like, oh, make sure you do such and such. And I was like, all right, and it was old when we bought it.
You can keep them going forever.
All right, guys. Well, we are going to be talking about. You may be confused by the title of this episode. Episode 35. Mike Green's life is a lie, and so is yours. For those of you who don't know who Mike Green is, Mike Green he's like a money manager. He has managed, I believe, billions of dollars worth of other people's money. Very brilliant guy in a lot of respects. Not great when it comes to Bitcoin.
Consistently wrong.
Yeah, consistently wrong. Impressively.
Has wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically penned this article. Actually, I will share one story. So basically, he's been on Twitter and a whole bunch of other things. He's somewhat of a finance Twitter celebrity. Has had contrarian takes and been right, other than Bitcoin. And my claim to fame is that my cousin and I were DMing on Twitter back and forth, and accidentally included Mike Green in our tweet conversation, and he proceeded to go back and forth with us for like a half hour, telling us why we were wrong about Bitcoin. This is probably around 2020 or 2021, and I just remember as he's going back and forth, I'm just sitting there in my room in Uruguay, just going, and I side text my cousin. I'm like, is this Mike Green, like billionaire hedge fund manager, is literally like going at us on Twitter and just telling us why we're wrong about Bitcoin as Bitcoin is pumping? Like this is hilarious. So me and Mike go way back, but he wrote this article the other day that as soon as I read the first, 5 paragraphs of it, I was like, oops, we're going to talk about that one. This is a really good article. He wrote it on his Substack called My Life is a Lie. And so we're gonna dig into that a little bit here in a few minutes, but we would be remiss, given, the last time that we podcasted, I believe we were in the, probably $110,000 range, was Bitcoin. I didn't check before we hopped on here, but if you can take a peek over my shoulder here, at, our Blocktron over here, you can see that we have fallen a little bit. We're at $87,074. Joshua, is Bitcoin dead? Is it over?
Well, I thought I'd wear my 100K with the cross out on it. Wait, what are you telling me? It's not 100K? So here's a couple thoughts.
Well, let me just clarify. The reason why we're doing this is because I'm pretty sure if your life is anything like mine, I've been getting inundated by people at church and family members who are reaching out to me and asking me, what's happening with Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin going down? Why doesn't it just automatically go up all the time? So that's what we want to do. We want to answer, why is Bitcoin not going up all the time? Asha would take the floor.
And so there's this great meme on Bitcoin Twitter of all the family members at the Thanksgiving table looking at you, like looking up at you like, hey, how's your little internet coin doing? And so we're all gonna meet for Thanksgiving and we're gonna have these conversations. So I don't know if one of you could find this tweet, we could you could share it, but it was something that Hodl Magoo shared. And I thought this was really helpful. And his point was, oh yeah, I did find it. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in the our chat. And why don't you share this real quick? It's in the studio chat.
All right, here we go. Share.
Now
Screen.
I occasionally jump into a Twitter Spaces with this guy, and he's quite the potty mouth. So I do not
condone.
I do not condone this Twitter account's behavior. Okay, zoom in so we can see this bad boy. So he just makes the point. OMG, why are all the OGs selling? Maybe because this is the first time there has actually been liquidity to exit into. So if you do your the chain analysis and people are talking about, hey, look at these huge wallets. We're talking like billion-dollar wallets selling some or all. And you're wondering like, what do they know that I don't know? And are they all leaving Bitcoin? And why now? And all this. And this, I just found this so compelling in its explanatory power to say, well, if you have been holding since like 10 cents and you're sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, but you know what moves, by then you know what moves the market, and you know if I try to unload any meaningful amount, right, I'm gonna lose a bunch of that value as I crash the market. And so the thought that, okay, this is the cycle where the whales can finally sell for the first time because of the ETFs and the institutional buyers, I'm like, that just makes sense.
Yep.
And this is actually a good thing to have a market that is now distributed more widely, more globally. And it's true, more corporate hands have it and less like random nobody cypherpunks that were nerdy enough to buy Bitcoin in 2011. Okay, it does change the market, but it's like that's a part of the growth process.
Yep.
So I find it bullish.
Yeah.
It also, so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and also as it relates the whole cycle conversation. People are afraid because they think this is we got the peak 125, and now we're going back down to whatever 40 or 36.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm also compelled by the thesis. I'm also compelled by the thesis when you add the detail that, I mean, literally the entire stock market is held up by NVIDIA right now, and they just got their pants pulled down in front of the whole world in terms of like they're fudging some of their numbers. So like just the possibility of uncertainty in the broader market. And just if you're sitting there on the fence, like imagine, I mean, a lot of these guys, it goes up to 125. They're sitting there holding on like, hey, what if we go to, 200? What if I double the amount? What if I get, 20 or, 2 billion instead of 1 billion? So they're sitting there waiting. And then as soon as they see some broader weakness in the market, they're like, all right, I've seen enough. I don't want to, assuming something generational unfolds here, unwinds, I'd rather lock in my $1 billion. Like that just makes all the sense in the world to me. So yeah, again, these are all, there's things that make sense. There still is so much buying out there. We have friends who are in the finance industry who are just telling us, they're like, yeah, there's another giant institution that's coming on in January, another, just every day there's more and more institutions who've been on the sidelines, due to fear or due to any one of a number of regulatory concerns or limitations that are getting in every day. And so, I do not think we're going to be seeing the same kind of cycle that we've seen in the past, just due to the sheer volume of buying that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, um, the economy's in a really rough shape. Like, if anybody's listening who's in any sort of business, if you're behind the scenes, if you're seeing numbers, like the consumer's in really rough shape. You have to ignore a lot of the headlines, but um, yeah, and Bitcoin's the last functional smoke alarm to not just inflation but also liquidity. And so when the masses don't have anything to, so it is. I do think it's a lot of OGs selling, but it's also there's a limited number of buyers. But it's still bullish because those buyers that are buying right now are massive institutions, and they're picking up, and they're probably preventing us from going into another um, bear market. Um, yeah, I did want to say just on what was I going to say? Um, oh, so I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways,
Well,
it'll come to me in a
I'll
second.
jump in
Yeah,
there. I'll jump
Yeah,
in there
yeah.
and just say, like, I think in this group I read the least about Bitcoin, even though I have committed myself to it. So I'm in this topic. I'm the what does that mean, guys? Guy, But I will say that, like, if you couldn't see the price, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
just saw all the other news, you'd be like, this is exactly what we were hoping for, exactly what we were expecting. Like, nations are getting on board, big companies are getting on board, like, all this stuff is happening. And as someone pointed out too, which relates to what you first said, Jordan, there's all this selling, but guess what? There also is people are all buying it. So if you don't think about the fact that everyone's also buying it, you're missing that part. And if you put yourself in the shoes of that 10-cent person or $100, they bought it at $100. It'd be great to get 2 billion instead of 1 billion, but that is nothing compared to what they've got.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to say I'm gonna, and they're probably not all buying yachts and stuff. Not everybody wants to do that, but they're probably saying I'm gonna put it diversified and have some extra freedom and I could be wrong on this as that guy in the conversation, but there's nations involved and stuff. So it's not as if there's zero rocky road to still cover as Bitcoin. And there's like the core. I don't know if you guys think the core thing had anything to do with any of it, but it's very exhausting trying to figure it out. But when you look at the other news, you go, it looks like the fundamentals are doing incredible.
Yeah.
I just remembered. I was just going to say, yeah, the OG's selling. Like, we also need to remember the whole psychology of life being short, and depending on the age of some of these deep-pocketed OGs or just investors, 15 years has gone by, right? It's like, what age does that put them at now? And then just do the math. Like, how many more years do they have? Which obviously none of us know, but it's like, it doesn't mean that they're not bullish on Bitcoin. It also just, partly it's just recognizing like life is short, So, I mean, yeah, sure, they can hold out for another 5 or 10 years and they'll be, it'll be multiples higher, but 5 or 10 years might be half of the rest of their life, or you know what I mean? Like, you just never know. So,
yeah. Another thing is people underestimate the amount of people that own thousands or tens of thousands of Bitcoin. Like, people really, like, there are actual people out there who own tens of thousands of Bitcoin. So when they when they see an entire wallet sell, they're thinking, oh, this one person sold all of their Bitcoin. And the reality is, no, they sold all of what was in one wallet, and they probably have 10 wallets.
I agree with that.
Like, there's just people really underestimate that whole idea. And again, just the rate. I mean, the guy who Laszlo, the guy who did Pizza Day, that guy had so much Bitcoin early on that Satoshi reached out to him and was like, dude, you're mining too much Bitcoin. Like, and so that's the reason why he spent 10,000 Bitcoin on pizza. I think it's 8 times. So he ended up spending like 80,000 Bitcoin on pizza in order to try to maintain the spirit of what Satoshi was, created Bitcoin with, which was to have it more distributed. So there are people who are absolute whales. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, I mean, let's say there's, how many people were buying or on, even if it's just hundreds, even if there's only hundreds of people that own tens of, and a lot of these people have sold off before now, but even if there's only dozens of people who have tens of thousands of Bitcoin, that's just a ton of money. That's a ton of money. And so for a lot of these people, they're in their 50s, they're probably getting close to retirement. And so in a lot of these cases, it makes sense. Like if, we're sitting here, we're the ones sitting here talking about, money or life being more than the accumulation of possessions. And, just the point of Bitcoin is not just to, accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. Like, money exists to help us, basically serve other people and to support other causes and things around the world. So it's one of these things where it shouldn't surprise you. It shouldn't worry you. This is just another part of Bitcoin's maturity process. That's totally normal. Let's see. We do have, before we get into Mike Green's article, we'll do this last one. We have Miles Suter. This is a tweet from Miles, who works for Cash App. We need to get Miles on. I talked to him a while ago and tried to get him to come on, and then he had his head to the plow and just kind of disappeared. He also came back looking like an absolute Chad. I don't know if you guys remember. You could tell he has been working out. His jaw is like a different person over the last 4 years. So he absolutely looks like Silicon Valley. He's been working out with Jack and doing a bunch of good health stuff. So good on you there, Miles. But here we go. Miles shared this tweet the other day. Current bounty leader. This is Cash App. They offered bounties to people who help onboard small businesses. And our very own Ryan Finley is the current bounty leader. Let's go. So what this means is that all of you need to gird your loins who are listening to this under the sound of my voice. Please go gird your loins and dethrone him. Okay.
So what is this about, Ryan? What have you been doing? What's the secret? And for folks that don't know about the new Square launch, what is this?
I literally went to four restaurants / bar breweries in my community and just onboarded them really quickly. Three of them, I frequent them quite a bit, the different places, and so just started off with people I know. I honestly haven't worked that hard to get other ones. I could get a lot more. So, but probably the biggest selling point for anyone else that wants to get merchants in their community accepting Bitcoin was the simple sales tactic of hey, you guys can actually keep the entire transaction amount. So whenever anyone pays via Lightning invoice over Square's point of sale system, I think they're waiving all fees for all of 2020s or for the next year, basically. So they keep the full amount. And then it puts them on the BTC map. So all travelers that are coming up and down I-5, when I travel, I'm going to now stop and frequent different coffee shops and restaurants and food trucks that accept Bitcoin, just to encourage them and try to build the ecosystem. So it's been cool.
As a restaurant owner, that's a good incentive because a lot of times margins are 5%. So if you get 2.7 or whatever % back on your things, that you don't have to pay. That's significant.
Yeah. It's, if you guys ever, I think everyone should do it at some point. Just go ask to talk to the owner of a coffee shop or a restaurant and ask them how much they pay in credit card fees every year. It's literally tens of thousands of dollars just to be able to accept payments. Yep. Dude, if this catches on, and I've already tested out the Square's feature where you don't even you can use the Bitcoin Lightning rails and it'll pull the cash out of your. So you scan the QR code to pay for your item, and if you scan it using the Cash App, it'll actually give you an option: send your some of your Bitcoin or send Bitcoin via your cash balance. So it auto converts it so you can pick cash balance. and everyone's like, so, I saw people, oh, you're going to regret selling. Now you don't even have to sell. If you want to use Square's entire ecosystem, you can send the Bitcoin
Yeah,
over there. Yeah. So, or you can just buy more, whatever you want to do. But it's really cool.
it is. Square again. They or Cash App. Miles was talking about the fact that they try to basically keep their head to the plow and not talk about stuff until they have stuff. The whole proof of work concept. They don't want to talk about stuff until they're releasing stuff, and they've just done a great job. So, salute to them. We'd love to get Jack on the program at some point. Let's go, Jack. Come on. You support two of our friends. We'd love to come on and talk to you, have you on and talk to you about that. All right, so let's get into this Mike Green article. Ash, you are a podcast polygamist. You're leaving us early, so let's hurry up and talk about this.
That took a minute for me to register what you said. I'm like,
I co-host another podcast.
That's right.
is
We call
what
that
Jordan
podcast
means.
polygamy. It's so
Why did we start late, Jordan?
because Matt couldn't get his life together. Let's see here. All right, Ryan, introduce this article to us.
yeah. So Mike Green basically, he goes back. I'll try to summarize it.
Here, I'm pulling it up right now. There you go.
Yeah. So he went back to the original U.S. poverty line, which it was originally defined in 1963, with the threshold being 3 times a minimum food budget. And he just systematically goes through and basically it just kind of exposes how the books have been cooked over all these decades since then, and to basically make people in our country it's basically to hide the fact that an increasing amount of the people in the United States are actually in poverty. And he comes up with the number of $140,000 being the actual real threshold for a family. I think it's a family of 4, where if you're making less than that, you're probably in poverty. Now, we're going to do a lot of caveats as we talk about it and stuff like that, but because he throws in there that it triggers both parents working, which then triggers a large childcare expense. So there is a way to bring that number down, for example. But anyways, the main point, I would say, to summarize probably his most thunderous point of the article, is this he calls it the valley of death trap, and where a person or a family that's trying, they want to be super faithful, they want to work super hard to increase their income, to increase their quality of life, and put themselves in a better financial position. They lose the ground as they make more money. So he says, for example, the $45,000 to $65,000 increase in income triggers massive increases of the cost. So they actually end up going backwards. So, yeah, in the backwards in the sense of increased costs of childcare, but also loss of, for example, if they're on government benefits, whether it was food or housing or medical or anything like that. And and I think he just basically put into words what a lot of people have felt for a long time, and but people really don't talk about it. And it's really powerful, because I think things are a lot bleaker than we understand, and certainly bleaker than our government likes to portray themselves as. But
yeah, I mean, just this whole idea of, I mean, I've experienced this of, you're making a certain amount of money, and you realize, oh, hey, you're thinking about getting a raise, or you're thinking about something like that, as you're calculating, you're like, oh, wait a second, now I'm going to be paying more in taxes, and you just start to realize, wait a second, and this happens. He talks about this happens at each one of these income increase levels, and so you just start to look at the incentives. Like you're actually incentivized to do less work and to be less productive because you're worried about the taxes that you're going to pay. And so it's this, and again, the whole concept of you don't get what you want, you get what you incentivize. Like this, it's a really just disgusting thing. We need to do a larger series about taxes, a larger episode about taxes, and how we just have kind of really just lost sight of, why do taxes exist? What is the purpose of them? I just think the average person just doesn't want to spend the time to think about it, and so they just put their head down and just pay it, and it's just gotten to just absolutely insane levels. Ash, Matt, you want to add anything?
So I put something in the chat.
Okay.
And then I think that would tee up Matt pretty well to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are gonna need the Academy Award music for me, and just be like, "Time to shut up, Matt." So I'll let
get ready for the epic rant. But
Boncy Chillups.
No,
Here we go.
I'll set Matt up. Matt lives in the most perfect spot in the United States that exemplifies this article. Like, I honestly don't think I think it's probably the most impacted state in the country when it comes to literally everyone understanding what Mike Green is saying in that article. So, like, if it was blasted on a bullhorn, everyone in Hawaii would be like, amen, absolutely.
So just real quick to read this post. Friend has a nanny, single mom, paying her $35K. I love that we're using opportunity cost plugin to give BTC.
Shout to the
0.4 BTC.
Shout to the homie.
A year in
Appreciate
cash. Wife and him wanted to pay her above the table. Sat down with her and told her he was going to raise her pay to offset lost benefits from paying her above the table. Walk through the lost benefits. She'd financially be break even at, wait for it, 70K of above the table pay. We broke the system, guys.
Yeah. It's
Goodness
gracious. Dude, it's crazy. I actually, I can't even remember if he touches on it, but yeah, the increase in income shoots some people into the higher tax bracket. Government claw comes out, scoops it away, and all of a sudden, you just lost your you lost your Medicaid or whatever it is. You lost your health insurance. Another claw comes out, scrapes another bunch. Next thing you know, it's like it's pretty crazy. But yeah, Matt, do you want to kind of share what you see on Hawaii?
Yeah, totally. And another thing, if I'm speaking to a hater out there of this article, like yesterday it came out and we were looking at it, and then it wasn't until like this morning I started seeing the haters come out. I think they like kind of couldn't argue about it, and then finally in the morning they're like, "This is dumb," or someone would be like, "Oh, that's a crazy number," And here's what I would say:
it's the Federal Reserve. It's like their marketing.
All their bots.
Yeah. Twitter needs to say if it's coming from DC. Twitter needs to do this thing where instead of just countries, if it's coming from DC, it says it's coming from DC. But yeah. So to set things up, I think whether you agree with the number or not, you need to get the point.
Yeah.
I think he's doing a really great pedagogy here. I just preached a sermon 2 weeks ago called "Hate Your Mom," and it's where Jesus says you have to hate yourself, you have to hate your mom, you have to hate everything in comparison to God, right? And so whether you agree, fair,
he said both moms and dads. We don't want angry letters from moms who feel
true.
singled out.
Yeah, that's true. But I felt like mom was a stronger title. So and here's my point: the perfect pedagogue, Jesus, is making a point. So whether you agree with 130 or not, take it in and consider what is going on in this article. So yeah, where I live is in the poorer area of Hawaii, and I would say with confidence more than 80% of households are below the poverty line and working. In other words, it's not homeless, it's not like that. It's working under the poverty line. And I think that everyone, just as Ryan said, everybody, and this is where Oshawa grew up, so he knows it well. Everybody knows this. Probably most people here know it mentally. Everybody knows it at the heart level. And I would even go so far as to say, in a lot of ways, this article to me spoke to some of the rage of the younger generation right now, but they don't know how to put it into words. But he put it into words that whether you agree with the numbers or not, he pointed out the bad guys and the whole scenario really, really well. So, a couple things just off the top of my head. Not only are you going to lose, let's say you go above the poverty line, not only are you going to lose your Medicaid insurance, but actually your new insurance is likely to be worse, actually. In other words, it won't cover everything, and they're going to argue with you about stuff, and they're going to try to they're going to try to not pay, and it's going to be super expensive. And so I would say for more than the last decade, I've been saying here in Hawaii, I've been telling people about this in some of the same words even, and I felt really justified by the article because I always put the number over six figures. I always said like, don't even bother unless for sure you're over 100K, and maybe more like 150, because it really depends on you. It depends on what you want to do. There's a lot, people have all different priorities in their life, but I've been saying this for a decade, and to have him come up with these numbers is like, that's what I've been saying,
Yep.
Now, over the course of generations, people arrange their life around this principle to where you can actually live a very comfortable life depending, where you have free time, you have time to visit family, you have time to go to the beach, you have time to work on your car, you have time to do other things, and remain under the poverty line, technically speaking. Some of that is through illegal tax evasion, because as the social contract is broken, that is no longer even looked upon as a social bad. In other words, you go and somebody who you're doing business with is under the table or they're evading taxes, and no one cares anymore. Whereas maybe 100 years ago, that would be like, hey, I know what you're doing. I'm not selling you my Facebook marketplace thing or something like that. That's gone, and in many nations around the world, it's gone, like completely gone. I remember a story I think it was in Kenya, but it was like about a guy trying to go start a business, and the guy in the tax office is like, "What are you doing here? Get out of here before anybody sees you." In other words, like even the guy in the office and on the ground level is like, "Don't come in here to tell people you're starting a business." So I could go a lot of directions with this, but I'll say this too. So parallel this with what we talk about with inflation as Bitcoiners quite a bit. You need to learn to hate the inflation. That's one part. And then you need to learn the second part is how much cheaper things should actually be because of advances in technology. So then it's like, bam, bam, like it's a 1-2 knockout. Like not only is the supply increased, but everything should be like 1/4 the price because of the advances we've made. But instead, they just keep inflating it away to where it's actually harder, and it should be like 5 times easier, And I think that's what's going on with this too. Is you go, okay, the price. It's not just that people are lazy. It's like the prices of insurance. What sets that? Oh, the fact that the government's involved at all levels. And so, I just had a talk with another Christian person here at my house like a couple of days ago, and they were talking about Jordan. I don't know what you Florida people are doing, but they're in Florida, and they had to do an overnight there in the hospital, and it was like bill for $8,000. And so we're talking about, okay, and then for some reason their insurance doesn't transfer over, and it's like, and I've never done this, so I don't want to speak as though I'm an expert, but from what I understand, if you go back there, maybe you don't pay it for 6 months or a year, and then you go back and say, I don't have 8,000, would you take 800? A lot of times they're going to say yes, because these things are hyperinflated because the insurance companies are going to pay for it, and they're hyperinflated for the insurance companies because insurance is mandatory. And then same thing with school. Exact same thing with school. Why is school the price that it is? Because the loans are so easy to get that the price goes up, know? So maybe a final example, and you guys can tell me to stop or keep going. But, I can think of an example here. We have a farmer's market, not a small one. And I've observed over the period of time, sometimes we sell stuff at the farmer's market, sometimes we go. The way that the system is set up, and I don't even know how intentional it is. I think it's like the market at play. You can go there with your EBT and you go to the counter and you get EBT tokens, and then you can go around the market and buy stuff. But people are going around and buying hot food all the time, prepared food, burgers, Thai food, all that kind of stuff. That is not allowed with Snap Bucks. But it's like the responsibility is intentionally in the community. And I'm saying this is the community's response to the Fed. I'm sure it happens all over the place. No one is keeping track. And there's no like big guy to get in trouble. So even if you went there as an inspector, it'd be like, well, we tell them what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. And if they went and bought like kebabs or something like that, now, oh, who gets in trouble? The guy that bought a kebab and the guy that sold a kebab. And guess what? There's no money there for you.
Yep.
So too bad for you, Uncle Sam. So my point is, this is probably multiplied times a million all over the country. In countries that I visited, Italy, and I mentioned other, this is literally the way of life. This is why banks start saying, oh, you want to take out $500? What is it for? Because it gets so egregious that the compact between magistrate and citizen is like broken completely.
Yeah.
So he laid out, I think he laid out the players perfectly well. The numbers are not the most important part. The point is that this has been broken, and I think the rage that's going on in the Zoomer and the younger generation, this is a very strong part of the explanation for it.
Yeah, and you get. I mean, one of the things we haven't talked a lot about this because it's been. We haven't done episodes in a few weeks, but I mean, one of the things that you see people trying to reconcile and trying to deal with these realities and trying to make sense of them. And so, one example of this, of somebody doing this poorly, is Oshawa's favorite podcaster, Nick Fuentes, who basically talks about. The fact that he's basically espousing, like, on the one hand, he's talking out of his mouth and saying, on the one hand, you have him talking about.
I've literally never listened to the guy. I saw he was on Tucker, and I'm like, I'll skip that episode.
This is what happens when you live in Portland. You have to interrupt and be like, no, wait, I'm not. Please don't destroy my house. But so Fuentes, who's on the one hand says conservative things and gets called like a radically right-wing personality, he is advocating to like work with the socialists and like to bring about a socialist economic policies, because he just basically sees the absolute farce that is the economy and recognizes that it's untenable. And so this is like it really is one of these things where it's one of these situations where it looks hopeless. It looks so hopeless because of the incentives involved and because of you need a revolution. Like it actually is true. Like you need a revolution. There has to be something that changes. And if you don't have a conception for Bitcoin, you're going to look for a quote unquote quicker revolution. And so it's going to lead to people falling headlong after people creating plans that are not good plans. It's going to go very poorly.
There was a quote. Can I say one thing? There was a quote that was like, I don't have it perfect, but it's in the article there, and it was like, it's not that this is the price. This is not the entry point into like being middle class or something like that. He says this is the price of just participation. I thought that was a powerful thing, because you can say, oh, well, you have your iPhone and you have your vehicle and you have your this, and like all that stuff is overregulated, and all that stuff is just literally the price of like, do you want to be able to even like communicate with anybody? Do you want to be able to log into your bank account? You're not even going to be able to do it without two-factor authorization and all this other stuff. So a lot of these things that might seem like luxuries, they're luxurious in a certain sense. But in another sense, unless you just want to be like eating bears in the woods or something like that, you have to have these things. It's the cost of participation.
Matt, apparently a big Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fan, talking about eating bears. Ash, you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say, I think we should talk about, like, how should we respond, especially as dads, as Christians? I had a conversation with my other friend, Jordan, and, he brings up good points. He was talking about, like, first of all, those numbers should be rebuked, as like, if we're being wise stewards, we should be, way more frugal. So I agree. We 100%, the numbers can get way down. And if you're not being foolish with your finances.
And a big number there is the childcare. The childcare,
Yeah.
he had like $35K for childcare.
Yeah.
Now you have to. So I think we should talk about that, of one income versus two income, because what happens is the one income gets you another $60K, but then costs you another 35.
And potentially costs you your kids.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's the ultimate, like, so for the biggest thing right there is do whatever, like, if I could pass on any advice, it'd be literally do whatever you possibly can to not have your wife work so that she can stay home with your kids and raise them and educate them. It's not worth it. It's not worth sending your kids away. And I have dear friends that do that. I mean, it's just, it's not worth it, especially when you do the math. Like, because how much are you actually, like, count the cost? Like, how much are you actually bringing in extra revenue for your family versus literally not being able to be with your kids all day and sending them away, you know? But and ultimately, so I think it's like, just on the faithfulness part, you know, being frugal, being a wise steward, not buying things you shouldn't, spending within your means, not living with unrealistic expectations. If you really can't afford something, then just don't do it. So assuming, I think we should start the conversation assuming that, especially for young people just starting out today, it's extremely important for parents to walk them through all this kind of stuff, because that's like the fundamentals. It's like, okay, the beginning of the ball game, you need to literally be driving an old car, like that you own, that you paid $1,200 for, and you don't have just you're living a frugal life, working hard, being faithful, so that your family can flourish. But realistically, and again, I think everyone's going to have to start talking about this. It has never been more difficult to start out in life as it is today. That's just a fact. It's extremely expensive to get into a house, to rent, to buy, to do anything like that. So I think, one of my main comments was that I think Christians are going to have to do some radical things, like include just literally living differently than we have over the previous, just throw it out there, 80 to 100 years.
And the one thing that I would add, well, there's a bunch of things we could add, but one thing that I would add is the other part of his calculation is the built-in assumption that you're going to live like on your own. Like you're going to, like, your economic existence is going to be lived as an individual. And like, I just think there's so much that where Christians should be challenging this, and again, not communal living, not like living on a commune necessarily, something like that, but just when you think about, I mean, just the way that you think about your life as parents and with your kids, like you should be when your kids, as soon as they are old enough to work and old enough to be able to just handle themselves, like we should be already having these conversations about like working and about being productive. And like part of being a human is being productive and not just consuming resources. Because on the one hand, while Ryan is correct that it has never been more difficult in terms of economically, in terms of how much you're being taxed and how much all these things, it's also never been easier to make money. Like in terms of just like I mean, you can literally ask ChatGPT for business ideas and business plans, and it will literally spell out everything for you. And then the only thing that you need is just actually go and do it. And so like there is
show up,
just show up and work hard. And so like, again, that what I'm not saying is that isn't necessarily the case for brick and mortar businesses, but in terms of just going to your next door neighbor or going around your neighborhood and literally picking up trash, like picking up things that, free furniture and stuff like that. Like you can, I mean, Ryan, you are getting back into the appliance repair business. Like there are people, the amount of wealth in the United States, especially with wealthier people, that they are just getting rid of without even thinking about it is insane. And so there's all kinds of opportunities at the same time as we're saying this is horrible, this is unsustainable. It is. But at the same time, like there is a humongous opportunity for hardworking people to just get out there and make money, because there's a tremendous amount of lazy people who don't want to work, who are terrified of hard work. And are unwilling to do it. And so, I mean, just if you're a hardworking person who has a shred of integrity, like you can straight rake in this environment at the same time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
I'll just gonna say we should touch on the multi-generational living component. I know the first thing that pops into everyone's head is like what you said, Jordan, the whole commune thing.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I think it's another one of those situations where we always feel like we have to qualify it, but raise faithful kids and don't be afraid of multi-generational living situations for a season.
Yep.
Why? Other cultures have figured it out and they haven't changed in forever. You're like, oh, how do they do it? How do they have such a nice property? Oh, because there's like 5 generations living there, and you're like, it's literally it's the individualized West that's afraid of that. Oh, no, we each need our own castle, and it's like, okay, well, what's the cost of that going to be? And it's
congratulations, fragile life.
Yeah,
there you go.
So, yeah, I mean, and like, does your kid need to move out this year? Oh, but not married? Okay, maybe not. Maybe they don't. Maybe they can save that $1,500 or $2,000 a month in rent. If that's a lot, then and imagine them putting that away into Bitcoin every month, and for a couple of years, that's a pretty big nest egg, and that's just one expense. So I just think most families are gonna have to wrestle with this, unless you're like fabulously wealthy and you can just basically help your kids get started, with some of your extra crumbs. But yeah, it's gonna be be an interesting next couple decades for sure on this issue.
I feel like that one image of like the cows being led to the slaughter, and they have this little path, where it's all smooth and everything like that. I think that I want to bring in business ownership into this conversation and just say, like, the people who are going straight to the shearers and straight into the meat grinder are people who are going in for a nice paying W-2 job. And I'm not saying absolutely, because that can be really good, and there could be benefits. Maybe you have medical benefits and you don't have to pay extra and stuff like that. But consider business ownership, especially if you're a paterfamilia, especially if you're a dad, because there's a lot of things that are legal and that are moral and ethical that are write-offs, huge write-offs. I mean, if you have a vehicle, to me, in some ways, it's crazy that all these things are post-tax. Your food is post-tax, your vehicle is post-tax, these things that are literally the price of entry are after you paid your taxes. Now, I'm not suggesting to evade taxes or to lie on taxes, but if you have a vehicle that's used very primarily or largely for business, that becomes no longer post-tax, but pre-tax. In fact, it's a write-off. Many of your miles that you drive, if I drive to go to Target and I get stuff for my business and I also get stuff for my family and I come back home, that's a write-off. That's 60 cents a mile. Times that by the entire year, that's thousands of dollars. So by no means am I, again, saying to evade taxes illegally, but there are many, many, many ways when you're running a business to combine, and actually your life becomes a business anyways. So it's just very natural. There's many things that are you're not walking straight into the meat grinder, basically. Business is very stressful. It's not for everybody. It's not the only answer, but it's something to consider, because if you get a good, one of the ways I deal with it is I have a very good CPA. I don't make 130. I never have, but I have a good CPA to make sure at the end of the year I'm doing it right. I'm doing it legal. They also happen to be Christian, but they do not make me pay for things that I don't need to. They make sure I get the maximum.
Yep.
You can also, if you have an S corp, you can write your own salary. You can say, well, I work about this much per week, and this is the salary that I get. So then, therefore, that's the salary that you get. And some of the, and I mentioned off this chat that over the more than a decade I was running a restaurant, my sensitivity to wanting to support Uncle Sam with all the extra stuff that Uncle Sam wants has become very insensitive. If I had to calculate, I said my skin has become like rhino skin on this, If I had to calculate by estimate, I would say I've paid 10 times as much money to taxes and insurance than I ever took home. And I'm not exaggerating. And so let me put it in a libertarian way. I, as a business owner, I caused X amount of economic benefit to my community. Out of that, I took home, let's just say it was 10%. It was probably less. Let's just say I took home 10%, but I actually paid insurance, taxes on property, on liability, all mandatory. So if you want to be like a hyper libertarian, I put that all into tax category. I don't care that that check was sent to First Insurance Company. That was mandated by my government. As far as I'm concerned, that's a tax because I had no option to do anything else. How much did I pay into unemployment insurance? How much did I pay into TDI, temporary disability? You know, a lot of companies like mine and many others, someone gets an injury, you still pay for it out of pocket on purpose because I don't trust the insurance company.
Yep.
So I pay the TDI. As far as I'm concerned, they're just biting my flesh off.
Yep.
And if there's an injury, unless it was like an insane, you know, whatever, someone cracks a tooth, I pay for it out of cash because I don't even want to call my insurance company.
Yep.
So I'm betting that I'm in the 90 percentile. I think that's what everybody's doing. And when you look at that, it's so perverse that I feel like my encouragement, even to Christians, is to say, don't come at it from a boomer Christian mentality of ethics. I'm saying of ethics, saying like, go to work hard, come home, end of the year, pay what they say you owe, you're participating in the economy. That's not really how it is anymore.
No.
You know, don't cheat, don't lie, but make sure that you are planning. You know, I wouldn't start a bakery and forget about the cost of flour.
Yep.
But actually the cost of taxes is way higher than the cost of flour. So you better be preparing in your family's life for what that cost is and find out how you can work around it.
Yeah.
So this is super helpful. I wonder if there was a way to create some calculators. I did a little AI search, and there's some existing stay-at-home mom financial calculators, because the numbers aren't simple, right? Because you have to look at, what's the price of childcare? What's the tax brackets? How we file our taxes change things? And so using setup calculators and then recognize, okay, it cannot purely be a financial decision, right? There's a point where you say, okay, even mom's large income that would sure push us forward in certain ways, the cost is not worth it. In fact, I would argue in just about every case, the cost is not worth it. But still, to know what the cost is either way, look at the math, and then have some kind of almost template that Christian dads can use to think through, okay, here's the advantages of having more kids. So like for me, I've lived for many years, we've always had a larger family, and the government rewards that with these tax credits as long as you're below a certain threshold, right? Like I remember a certain year where I had done some investments, and I had picked my investments well, and we were doing a real estate transaction. So I had to liquidate some investments, and my unearned income was too much. So this earned income credit that I was used to getting because I was working poor, I didn't get it. Was that a win or a loss? Right? Well, the win was, look at this. I made some good investments. I made some decisions, and I did well. But of course, this other, now here, the government handouts, you don't get that anymore. And actually, we'll just tax you. So I've experienced being below, kind of in that like danger zone kind of place where you're like, well, we try to get ahead, 2 steps ahead, 1 step back, or sometimes 1 step ahead, 2 steps back. And so I would love to see a template for Christian households that are specifically and for philosophical reasons saying, mom's going to stay at home. We're going to have a larger than average family size. We want dad to still be present and have some freedom to be engaged with the kids. We want to be in certain industries that allow like household-based economies. Some of our Nathan Spearing, this all the ideas around durable trades and these different things, right? So we want to build a life like that. So give us the financial data to know how to do that well. And at what point, if it's, and I would say it is biblically acceptable when the incentives say stay below this income level, to kind of like bide your time and say, okay, I'm going to operate at this level and I'm going to be at a level where the government rewards me. Now, I'm going to be fruitful in my work. I'm going to be diligent in building my household and doing things well, all the while preparing to jump over the dead man's zone, right? If dead man's zone is from 60 to 140, like, okay, let's prepare our as the proverb says, right? Plant your fields and then build your house. Like, let's plant our fields below and then find some way. Maybe it's Bitcoin is helping you. Maybe there's some other things that you launch above that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. What do you guys think?
That's solid, Ash, solid. And I've looked at it like you're building your engine, because I think this is going on in my life. And I think if I fired up my engine all the way, I would be doing pretty well. But so you're building an engine, but it's not turned on yet. And while you're building that engine, the business engine or whatever it might be, do not turn it on and let it idle, for crying out loud. Okay. Test it out a little bit in my metaphor, like make sure all the parts are working, but do not fire that thing up until it can get up to 150. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, are you trying to be a revolutionary that lives according to how the world should be, or are you trying to take care of your family?
Yep.
And the bottom line is our first priority is to our family and to God. And I hope that this conversation is releasing, especially some Christians, in going, I need to look into the ethics a little deeper than just be tough, show up, And I feel like before, I want to say what Jordan said earlier is the encouragement, and maybe we got back on the discouragement part, but on the encouragement part, you absolutely can make it, guys. You can make it, young people. I was thinking of maybe I'll still do a post where I was going to phrase it this way. If you make yourself a person that can actually manage that business or can manage a property, I believe it's coming to you. And here's my point. I'm not talking about name it and claim it. I'm not talking about The Secret, okay? I'm talking about how few people there are that can actually manage this. Mm-hmm. And I've experienced it in my own life as I grow in maturity, as I grew as a man, as I grew in my abilities. In my mid 30s, about early 30s, and I was a late bloomer, opportunities just started flying at me because the people out there in the world cannot find faithful men. Mm-hmm. They're looking for it. They cannot find it. So if you're, 20 years old or something like that, and you want a house, like, can you even pressure wash? Can you even take, can you clean out gutters? Can you do some basic carpentry? And I want to encourage you even farther, learn the basics of plumbing and electrical. And this is not for everybody, but can you take care of a house? And I'll bet you if you get to that point, you'll be able to get a house. It'll come your way. So I hope we don't make it only discouraging. There's a lot of encouragement here. The labors are few. If you become one, you'll be okay.
The other thing too is, again, along those lines is, if you have kids, like, start looking at your kids and trying to help them, get to a place that you're not at. Like, if you see that with yourself. And so just like looking at, with our kids, two of our kids play the violin. And so they've been playing the violin for three years, I think. And so the goal of this is, all right, so you're learning self-discipline, you're learning how to, learn this valuable skill. And then I'm already thinking, and we have friends who do this, friends who play for people's weddings. Like, their daughters are 12, 13, 14 years old, and they play the violin for people's weddings, and they make, $100, $200 on doing this. And so just like the idea of just accumulating skills and just thinking about your kids and thinking about, like, all right, what skills can we have? I have two boys who've been working on leather making. And so they have, I don't have it on me, but like they've been making these leather like keychain, grabbers. And it's just one of these things where they're learning, like they're functional, they're serviceable, they last a long time. Now, are they perfect right now? No. But again, that's the point. I have a 10-year-old who's doing this, and I have a 14-year-old who's also working at this. And so again, they're learning valuable skills that can turn into monetizable, things in very near future. I mean, Ryan, you could talk about your daughter, like, and very similar things.
Yep.
Again, but it takes a mindset shift. And
Yeah.
I mean, we could have the conversation too about, about kids, should kids contribute to the household economy? Like if they're out there, if they're earning these things, like, should they participate in that? And again, I think there's lots of interesting conversations that you could have, as you start to think more as a family economic unit rather than just an individual, or because I do think this is a place where even well-meaning Christians can go wrong, and they can just see, dad is the one who earns the money, and somebody like John Moody is somebody who's really just kind of just basically hit that hard and just been like, no, listen, these people all throughout history, they thought as household units. And so the goal was that, I mean, everybody was working. It wasn't that just, dad would leave and then everyone else would just stay home. Like that's totally ahistorical. And so just the concept of, of working and finding ways, even within the home, where you can be generating, whether it's growing food or whatever it is. We have a family in our church who they grow sprouts. And so these are there's like alfalfa sprouts. There's what are the tiny trees? Broccoli.
No,
broccoli sprouts.
Oh,
broccoli sprouts.
Bonsai.
Yeah, there's some that are beans as well, but they just grow sprouts, and it is insane. First of all, how cheap they are, and then just how you can grow them. They just have sprouts growing in their house at any given time. They've got like mason jars on their counter, and this is representing, I mean, over the course of a month, hundreds of dollars worth that it's free food basically for them. And so again, there's ways that you can make the money that you're earning go even farther, just by taking small, easy steps that effectively you're multiplying your time, you're multiplying your money. There's just 100 things that are like that. And so looking for people who are a few steps ahead of you or way ahead of you in this regard is just a helpful thing to do. And so somebody like John Moody, go follow him on social media if you don't, because he's constantly posting about things like that, constantly posting things where I'm like, oh man, I've never even thought about that before. So
it's super sobering to to think about how deeply this is going to impact our culture at large. And I'll just say the majority of families. If a kid doesn't have parents that exercise foresight and kind of have a vision for their kids, I would say the majority of kids aren't learning skills. They're not working until after they're out of high school. Dude, it sets kids back. Like, this whole discussion is around, imagine kids starting off at like 0 at the skill level after high school, with this mountain of like in front of them that they have to climb, like, oh yeah, and good luck. Like, starting at scratch. Like, literally, kids should be acquiring skills by the time they're 8. They should be a decade into the race by the time they're out of high school. And a decade is enough time to like become seriously advanced at a lot of different things. And so I'm not talking like $30-$40 an hour, 75, 80, $100 an hour by the time they're out of high school. Very, very legitimate, like very, very doable. It just takes parental involvement. Like, it takes repetition. It just putting the kids in, getting them involved in things they enjoy doing, and then just encouraging them to be diligent with it and put in the effort. And you can, like, dude, even in the construction thing, learn construction, even if you're not going to do it as a trade the rest of your life. At least you can build your own. You could build or like renovate. You can buy the biggest dump. Shout out to Jordan again for reminding me of that. Like, literally buy a starter dump and like completely renovate it. Like, fix the house up yourself. Again, you're using skills that you used when you were 13, 14, 15 years old. They'll be with you the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's a dump on my street, $100,000 right now. Walking distance to the park, the swimming pool, walking distance to the restaurants, walking distance to my house.
As long as there's one board from a wall, you can replace.
Sometimes the county says you can only do like $500 at a time, otherwise you need a permit. But what if you do $500 in the morning and another 500 in the afternoon? That's 2 events, I think. But guys, you might have heard kids' voices in my thing, and right now, as in outside my door, we have like four families here, homeschool families, and it's a market they're doing, and they all the kids made food, and all the kids made like candles and stuff, and so they're at my house now.
Nice.
I got a few coins so I can get some treats myself. And on a more real level, in the last 2 months, we've gone to the farmers market again. We ran our brick and mortar for 13 years, and now we're back at the farmers market. My 12-year-old, both times she's gone, has come home with more than $100.
Wow.
She made 10 loaves, 11 loaves of sourdough organic rye bread, and she's learning from a young age. To her, it's easy. She understands it. It's easy. It's no big deal. And now she's like, wow, I'm coming home with $100, $130.
Yeah.
I just saw someone today when I was pressure washing. She came up and said, make sure you hold 2 of those loaves for me. She's already got loaves sold before she made them. So one thing I wanted to speak to, Ryan, was like, 2 things I want to say. One is that there's a psychological damage too. If they get to where they're 18, it's not just that they have to learn the skill, it's that they have to psychologically rewire themselves to say, I'm a person who produces things and serves people. Mm-hmm. And that is that needs to be happening when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, not when they're 18.
Yep.
And if you have the idea that, that's the kind of person I am, I know how to produce things that people want, you are already going to be okay. And then the second thing I wanted to say was, in addition to, I can't remember, I think it was you, Jordan, what you were talking about, and the multi-generational idea. I don't think the multi-generational idea it's not just about giving your kids everything.
Yep.
It's about giving them opportunity and security.
Yep.
Here's what I mean. And you see this all over the world and throughout all history. So, if I give them help to move into a house, to start a business, maybe it's to start a business with me. In a lot of senses, they are the younger ones. Let's say they're 20 years old. They should be supporting the family. They should actually be probably paying market rate, if God wills, if they're doing well. But guess what's not going to happen? I'm not going to take it away from them if they get sick. I'm not going to take it away from them if they have an accident. They're not going to lose. So the stress of financial things is not just a matter of how much things cost. It's a matter of the feeling of insecurity that you could lose it all anytime,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's part of the legacy that families need to have, is to say, buck up, young man. You can do it. You can do better than me, actually, because I started late. But if something gets difficult, we always have a place for you. We always have. We're gonna be there for your healing. We're gonna be there for your family. We're gonna be there for you no matter what. And I think that gives a little twist on it. That this is not just about making a ton of money and becoming, like the prototypical movie mob boss whose son is like a total wimp that drives around in a Ferrari or something like that. It's not supposed to be like that. It's saying, I'm going to give you the skills and the opportunity.
Yep.
But I'm always going to be there for you if you need it.
Yep.
Just a short, quick story from my family. So my brother-in-law is in a small town in Indiana, and there's a whole historical district in their town, and they bought this old abandoned, really large. They have a large family, lots of kids, and they bought a really large old historical house from the 1800s. And it was empty for several years. It needed a ton of work. And so what they did with all of their whole family of their teenage kids, they all learned different skills to renovate this old historical house. And it's a ongoing process. They've been at it probably 5 or 6 years. It's not done yet. But then the thing they did is, and my brother-in-law's a historian, and so they had this idea, let's restore it using the historical methods. Actually go back to how they did it before. And so they're actually having to learn these skills that are largely forgotten as they're doing it. And his oldest son is very he's very handy, and he likes working with his hands, and he's tough, and so he started getting jobs with other people that were trying to restore their historic homes. And at 19, he has a full, I don't know how many, like half a dozen employees. He has what they tell me is the most successful and the most qualified historical home renovation company in their entire city. And he has more work
Preach it.
than he knows what to do with, and he could literally
That's
scale
awesome. That's cool.
his construction company to a multi-million-dollar company, and he's now getting his contractor's license and figuring it out. But it all started as like a 15 or 16-year-old working on the old home renovation project that dad bought.
Yep. That's super cool.
Yeah.
We also will share here just real quick. Ryan's daughter, she makes crochet animals and crochet figures. We're actually working on hiring her to create some crocheted figures of the characters of the Orange Umbrella, which is our kids book, which is what we also want to mention as we close. Our kids book is en route. It's being printed as we speak. We will have copies in hand by next week, Lord willing. And so this is something we could not be more excited about. You can go and pre-order your copies right now. We have hardcover and soft cover. And because we sat here and thought, listen, if we're already doing all the work to have an illustrator draw out all these things, why don't we just create a coloring book too? So we have a coloring book version of this as well that you can go get on our website, TGFB, or store.tgfb.com. We also have a big announcement coming this weekend, leading into Giving Tuesday. So I'm gonna wait a couple more days to announce that. But keep your eyes and ears peeled. Some big TGFB happenings, and we're gonna just need your help. So we are excited to do that. So guys, all grateful for you guys, for your contributions, for your lives and your examples. And we will return later this week on another episode of To the Unknown Pod.
Good to see you guys again.
Yep. It's good to be back.